What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at all the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including the WWE feeling the allegations aren't true, more details on WWE's efforts to deal with an infected wrestler, why the Undertaker almost jumped to WCW, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Let's hit the intro and get into the news. Now our first story looks at an update on the WWE banning masks. Now while there are conflicting reports about whether WWE fans were allowed to wear masks during the recent Raw taping, Ringside News is reporting on some controversial comments allegedly made by WWE's Kevin Dunn. Brian Alvarez said that he was told that Kevin Dunn specifically told fans that if you want to wear a mask, then you're not a fan. This corroborates our previous report about Kevin Dunn ordering for masks to be removed. Additionally, Alvarez stated that Dave Meltzer told him that WWE told fans that if you want to wear a mask, then stay at home. WWE really doesn't want to see masks on television. My News 13 reporter John Alba tweeted the following: "The fans I spoke to told me they'd never felt pressured by the WWE not to wear a mask for WWE purposes or any other reason. They confirmed temperature checks and signed waivers as well. One noted they were in a group that had masks on them and chose not to wear when taping started." As one skeptic noted, WWE wrestlers' friends and family, they may have felt pressured not to say anything to jeopardize the wrestlers' jobs. Alba continued noting, "Those I spoke to didn't find out about the positive COVID-19 test by a WWE development talent until after the tapings. While WWE personnel were tested today, the fans were not informed that they had to get tested. Those I spoke to were invited back for more tapings this week." While the WWE is claiming that the fans in attendance were friends and family members of WWE superstars, there's no word on whether this is accurate. Given the WWE's fondness for spinning things, we may not know for some time. Next up, WWE is testing wrestlers. As we noted in our earlier news video, the WWE incredibly has not tested its performers for the current disease driving our health crisis. Now the WWE is apparently testing all its superstars, with Ringside News detailing what's being done. The company went through testing today. This is the first time they tested on a company-wide level. Sean Ross Sapp reports that the superstars are now done with testing. There are some additional people who need to be tested, but they were told to come back at 7 PM tonight. The testing, however, was described as completely disorganized. According to PW Insider, it was reported that a huge gathering took place at the WWE Performance Center. It was also chaos from the beginning. Ringside News also reported that there was a huge gathering this morning at the WWE Performance Center for testing, which was described to us by several as disorganized at the onset of the process. And this was because WWE had to figure out how to do the testing in the first place, so it was a very slow process. It may seem mind-boggling that the WWE did not do any testing, unlike AEW where its staff and wrestlers have been routinely tested. Hopefully no one else is infected, and the WWE will adopt more stringent precautions for both its wrestlers and its fans. Next up, the WWE answers allegations wrestlers were held hostage in Saudi Arabia. The class action suit filed by the Firefighters Pension System of the City of Kansas City, Missouri Trust against the WWE, who alleged that the WWE covered up the relationship between itself and Saudi Arabia. The lawsuit contains testimony from an unnamed ex-WWE superstar who claims that WWE wrestlers and employees were forcibly detained after 2019's Crown Jewel show due to a disagreement between Vince McMahon and Saudi officials. Now, Forbes' Alfred Konua is reporting that the WWE's attorney Jerry McDevitt has released a statement responding to the claim. These false allegations were originally made in two suits filed by two different law firms. After the court appointed a third firm to be lead counsel, WWE provided all three law firms with specific detailed facts from the persons with actual knowledge of the situation, including the phony allegation about the plane. The first two law firms then dropped their lawsuits to avoid sanction motions, but the third firm chose to ignore the specific facts they had been provided and instead cited an unnamed disgruntled former wrestler with no knowledge of the facts. WWE is preparing its response to the lawsuit and will be moving to have it dismissed. If the case isn't dismissed, it should make for an interesting trial. Who do you think the unnamed wrestler is? Let us know your thoughts down below. Next up, WWE's plans to turn a superstar heel. Now that Paul Heyman has been fired from his role as executive director on Raw, it was reported that Vince was going to undo some of the plans that Paul Heyman had in mind. However, some of the storylines they're actually sticking to. One that involves United States champion Apollo Crews turning heel. Now that he's going to be turning heel, he'll presumably join MVP's stable. Another name that's been thrown around to join the stable is Shelton Benjamin. MVP is reportedly a big fan of Shelton and wants him to be utilized more. Next up, a story reveals McMahon had layoffs in mind before WrestleMania 36. A new story by ESPN detailing the collapse of the second version of the XFL contains some intriguing information concerning Vince McMahon and how the WWE Kingpin had already had a number of releases and furloughs planned prior to WrestleMania 36. McMahon was already working on plans for a series of WWE layoffs, furloughs, and other cost-cutting moves designed to stabilize the company for an extended period of lower revenues. They were announced April 15th. What's even more interesting is a report that Vinnie Mac has lost a sizable amount of his fortune, with the report noting, according to Forbes magazine, McMahon's net worth has dropped by $1 billion from $2.9 billion to $1.9 billion in the past year. If true, that's a substantial loss, and it could explain why Vince has sold so much stock and rallied to bump up the WWE stock price. Next up, why The Undertaker nearly jumped to WCW. The Undertaker's loyalty to the WWE is astonishing, with the Phenom having stayed in the WWE since its 1990 debut at Survivor Series. However, there was a time when Taker was tiring of the WWF and nearly jumped ship to his old stomping grounds in WCW. Speaking on Not Sam Wrestling podcast with Sam Roberts, The Undertaker revealed, "Yeah, there was a time I was so frustrated with our creative direction. We had a bunch of really goofy characters. They're down there doing real angles. It was common knowledge that they opened up the checkbook. I was hearing guys talking about the money they were making. You were able to get a good check and stay at home most of the time. Those thoughts were there." WCW was throwing big money at superstars, as well as the very attractive bonus of working less dates. At a time when the WWF rarely, if ever, gave guaranteed money, The Undertaker could have had an easy ride. However, he explained why he chose to stay with the WWF, reflecting on his first run in WCW. "Obviously, I'm not the best businessman, but something inside me said, you can't leave here. Won when I was there, and although the management had changed at this point, I went in to renegotiate a contract. I'd been there for 8 or 9 months. My deal was coming up. I was trying to get a little bump in the money. I was on the bare minimum deal. I wasn't looking to break the house. I went in there, met with Jim Herd, Ollie Anderson, and Jim Barnett. They looked at me straight in the eyes and said, 'You are a great athlete, but nobody will ever pay to see you wrestle.' My loyalty to Vince was stronger than the short-term cash I could have made if I left." It's almost a guarantee that Vince McMahon would have welcomed The Undertaker back in the WWE after WCW folded, despite whatever bad feelings he might have had for Taker leaving. But whilst we're on the subject of The Undertaker, he talks of a wrestler who shortened his career. During his talk with Sam Roberts, The Undertaker also looked back at a WWF program he worked that sounds like it took time off his career. As long as the Phenom's WWE career has been, he's struggled with injuries and missed long stretches of time as he's taken time off to heal and or undergo corrective surgery. The Undertaker talked about one individual in particular, Giant Gonzalez. "It was hideous. It was so bad on so many levels. I would have been in much better shape now if I would have skipped that one program. As physically demanding as it was twice the mental strain. You had Brett there, Yoko there. All these guys are going to have these great matches. You want to be mentioned in the same breath as those guys. It was not possible. It was survival every night trying to figure out what he could do. At that time, I didn't sell a lot or bump around. It did help me and prepare me later on for being able to work with people." The Undertaker has had a chance to work with some fantastic performers, including Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, and many others. But he's also had to survive against not only poor workers, but dangerous performers such as King Mabel. Is it any wonder The Undertaker is banged up as he is? And finally, a new television show announced featuring The Rock. Last but not least, it appears that The Rock has yet another entertainment program in the pipeline. Ringside News is reporting that NBC has confirmed it will release a show titled Young Rock. While Ringside News is reporting the show will debut in 2020, TV Line is reporting that it will debut as a mid-season show, which makes sense given the difficulties studios have had producing content due to the ongoing health crisis. But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.